Hello, my name is Jennifer, and this is my knitting podcast, Jennifer Knatters, where I talk about my knitting and what I've been up to recently. Excuse me. Today is the 19th of November, Monday the 19th of November, and I'm just squeaking this in. It's almost 1 o'clock, 12:35. Probably should have checked that first if I was going to say it. It's a bit of a dreek day here in northern Scotland. Dreek's a Scottish word. It means foggy, overcast, cold, and it is all of those things today. We have a bit of a freezing mist over the weekend after it was particularly unseasonably warm last week. So we've got a fair amount of frost on everything in the garden. Pretty much looks like it snowed overnight. It's just everything is so white, and it's just now a little bit afternoon starting to melt off, which is a shame. I really like the frost. I think it's very pretty. I'm sure it will be back tomorrow morning. And my big news for this week is I have 2 subscribers. 2! Yay! One of them's Aunt Kathleen. Hi, Aunt Kathleen! And the other one is unknown. I did not get a name for the other person. So hello, other subscriber. You're both very welcome, along with all the people who watch the video and don't subscribe, like Miss Chrissy. But that was just very exciting for me, having a subscriber and then getting 2 subscribers pretty much the same day. I'm very happy about that, if you can't tell. So the other thing this week is I have 2 finished objects. It's a good number. I was working on all the projects I had, and they're pretty much all 4-ply, and they weren't really what I wanted at that moment. So I decided when this hat came out, this is the Momo Hat by Jennifer Arnall-Culliford, and I've mentioned her before. She and her husband Jim are doing the Something New to Learn About series, and their current one is helical knitting 2 colors or 2 strands of yarn on top of each other, because knitting in the round is a spiral, not a circle, and you can do 2 spirals at the same time, which is what this hat is. And so you can see it's the green and the white, but there's no point where you stop one color to do the other. They just spin, and you can see this is where the white was introduced, and then from there it just goes round and round and round, round and round and round. I did not bother doing a particularly neat close on the top because I am planning on using the leftover wool. The leftover wool to do a pom-pom. I was thinking about using it as a swatch to knit another jumper by Carrie Westerman that I wanted, and then I was looking at the meterage for it, and her recommended wool, you get 200 meters for 100 grams. Her recommended wool is very difficult to get your hands on. It is a small producer in Denmark, and this is 85 meters for 50 grams, so that'd be 170 for 100, and that, I'm sure I could do a gauge swatch and work out the maths and have it all work out, and it would be reasonable, but it would be a much heavier jumper weight-wise. It would just weigh a lot more than Carrie's recommended wool. So I'll keep looking. I will decide. I would love to knit a jumper out of this. This is the Arnall-Culliford's wool. This is their Something to Knit with Aran, and I was showing it last week as an acquisition and saying I was thinking about doing mittens with it, because nothing in the book so far. I bought 2 50-gram skeins. That's Jade and Mist, which is a gray. I know it reads as white, but it's a really soft gray. And none of the patterns so far had particularly screamed at me to knit them. It's about learning the technique, so there's not a lot of really elaborate patterning going on. And then Jen released this pattern as a standalone, but also included it as a bonus pattern for anyone who had the book I was going to say who purchased the book, but I was actually given the book when they were looking for advice on names for the patterns, and I did not contribute anything significant to that, but I did participate in the thread and in the Arnall-Culliford knitting group. Participation is what counts. So I won the pattern book in a drawing. I would have bought it anyway. I was planning to buy it. I have bought their other ones, but it was included as a bonus pattern for that, and it came out, and I thought, I've got my 2 skeins. I really like that design. I'm going to knit it, and then I wound up banging it out in just 2 days. I started it Thursday night right before bed and finished it Friday night before I fell asleep. So you do the stripes. The green is always purled. The mist, the gray, is always knit. And then when you knit the pearls, you get these little bumps. You slip the cable stitches on the mist rounds and work cables on the jade rounds, and that gives you this cable floating in front of the jogless garter stitch for the hat. And look at that crown shaping. That's just lovely. I've decided to give this one to Christina, although I may sometimes borrow it if she's not wearing it. It fits me very nicely. On her, it looks a bit like a beanie. Sorry, on me it's a beanie. On her, it looks like a tam. But it doesn't really look like something I want to wear. But I very much enjoyed knitting it, and I will be very happy to see Christina wearing it. I'll be very proud to be like, look, I made that. So this is delightful. I like the yarn. It's a wool alpaca blend, but it's not. Alpaca is a really drapey fiber, so I was worried it was going to be a really drapey fabric, and it's Scottish Highland wool and then the alpaca, but the alpaca just makes it a little softer while still retaining most of the good qualities you want in a nice crunchy wool. So I would very much knit a jumper out of this, and I'm very happy to have the hat, and I will use the rest to make. I don't have a lot of the green left. I've got about, I think I used 26 grams of 50 for the gray for my contrast color, and 40 grams of 50 for the green, but I can make a green and gray pom-pom and stick it on top, maybe just a littler one. Christina would like a pom-pom. She likes pom-poms. So that is my first hat, my first finished object. My second finished object is the Woolly Wormhead Mystery Knit Along for this year. So if you are working on that or don't want to see it, just look away and I will let you know when we're done. So here we go, look away. This is the hat. I'm knitting mine. This was in Malabrigo Rios. I don't know if this will be like this or like this, or maybe worn to a different side. Don't know which way is the front, but I can either do it pulled down over my face and then I don't get snow in my glasses, which people laugh about, but when it's snowing, having it pulled down over my glasses means I don't get snow. Or I can do it like this and it's a little bit warmer, a little bit up further. The pattern is for a slouchy. I decided I wanted more of a beanie, but I did want this extra room. So if I've got my hair pulled up or something, I've got a little extra space at the top. And I did the decreases pretty much as written. I added just one more round of the patterning in the decreases and then decided I wasn't going to bother for the rest. So that's the top. And yeah, really soft, really cozy. And this is the emerald color. This is Deep Stash that I got from a friend when her roommate stopped knitting. She gave away her stash. I had just recently moved to the UK, and so my friend said, I will send it all to you if you want it. And I said I would want it. So I do use it for various things. And there we go. The color is a little muted for my preference. I like slightly bright. I do have a coat that's very similar in color in this. So if I want to be extra matchy-matchy, I can wear it with the coat, or more usually I would wear it with, I have other coats, and this would be one to wear with the other coats. So that is, I've put it away now, you can look back again. That is my Woolly Wormhead Mystery Knit-Along hat finished. I believe she is currently taking suggestions for naming that pattern. So if you have a suggestion for the name of that pattern, she's taking suggestions, and there will be a prize for whoever comes up with the winning name. I'm sorry, I've now got a little bit of fiber on my nose, and it was a bit itchy. So on to works in progress. The one I worked on the most this week was one leg warmer. As you can see, I decided, I think it was Tuesday, that this was the one I was just going to work on, like just make progress on it. It was really warm last week, but I knew it would be getting cold because it's just November, and November is usually a cold month here. So it's a fair bit stretchy, and hopefully Christine will be able to use these if she doesn't lose them for a number of years to come. And it is not a lot of fun to work with. You can see the fiber that's curled around itself because the sparkle bit, which is probably stellina, is pulling more tightly. Let's see, there's the loop right there. Then the fuzzy bit, and when I'm knitting, my needle keeps coming between the fuzzy part of the yarn and the stellina part of the yarn, and it's splitting, and they're easy, they're straightforward, but black is not always a lot of fun to knit with. So, and this is just deep stash acrylic that I bought my first winter here to make some various things, and I've still got another ball of this, but it should be just a little bit warmer than going in just leggings, which is her preferred school outfit. Is a pinafore dress, what we would call a jumper in the US, a pinafore dress here in the UK, over a shirt and leggings. And that's not very warm now that it's freezing out. But I made a little bit of progress on this, and that was kind of, I was working along on that, and that was when I was like, I really need something with a thicker yarn, something that is a DK, but it's basically like knitting a sock, and everything I'm knitting is on 4-ply, or it's a sock. And I just decided I wanted something I could just knit it and be done and be like, yay, a finished thing. And it turns out I have 2 finished things, so that worked out pretty well. The other thing I have to show that I've made some progress on this week, this is a symbolic quantity of knitting. Last night, when I finally had Catherine asleep, which wasn't until 10:30, I picked up my Bruntsfield vest by Ysolda Teague. The leg warmers don't have a pattern. I just cast on like 60 stitches, and I'm doing a 2x2 rib. You may recall, if you watched some of my earlier episodes, it was too big, so I've sewn a seam in it just to close up, taken out 1 repeat, and then it kind of sat there waiting for me to decide what to do. This is the thread I was using to sew it up. So I've just got my little pleat here. I kept 5 stitches on one side, 4 stitches on the other, so a 9 stitch, just to be a steek, so I'll have something to sew up, to cut off and sew up, so it'll continue the same the whole way up. And then I knit 1 round in this dark purple, and I've just started a little bit of the patterning, and I am working on it again. So now it's no longer sat there as something where I need to sort it out. It is sorted out, and I can knit away on it. So that was just a symbolic round to get the project started again, to get it out of the naughty corner and back into the circulation of something I'd like to actually work on. Put that one away. And then, having finished my 2 thicker diameter projects, I realized I was once more looking at a stack of socks and 4-ply. So I pulled, this is Arranmore, out of my stash, and it is another project from Something New to Learn about helical knitting, which is the Sangallo Cowl. The projects in Something New to Learn about knitting were named for the designers of helical staircases, double and treble helical staircases. I'm almost done with the first repeat of this knot in the front, and it will be 2 full repeats, so it'll be that and then a little bit more. This is for Chris. Just he's got a nice winter hat and he's got nice winter mitts. He does need some mittens, but I figured he could do with a nice cowl. The Arranmore from the Fibre company, I bought it by accident. It was when I was knitting the A Year of Techniques, which was the Arnall-Culliford's first book, A Year of Techniques, and they released project kits where you could buy the yarns to knit the 3 months of projects for that quarter, and it was a woolly wormhead hat pattern again, and the wool was a merino silk blend, so something soft and drapey, and the color they had was a slate gray, and I didn't particularly want to knit it, maybe not quite a slate, a mid-gray. I didn't want to knit it in that, and at the time they didn't have their own shop selling other colors of the yarns they were using. They did after that project kit for the 3 months went out. They did say, hey, by the way, we've got other colors in the recommended yarns. They didn't yet when I was ordering it, so I was looking online and searching for wool silk blends, and I came up with the Arranmore. Turns out the silk is the tweed bits, so it's the little nubs of tweed, and otherwise it's also a cashmere blend, I believe. It's a wool cashmere blend with tweedy nubs. Come on. And it is a slightly kind of rustically spun, and then it's got those lovely tweedy nibs. I was a little worried the pattern would obscure the cable, but they did have like the suggestion patterns that were written to be knit with the Arranmore did have some cables as well, so the cables are showing up reasonably well now that I've got enough to see. And then again, jogless garter, and this one, I'm not having to slip any stitches because it's all the same yarn. If I was knitting it in the Something to Knit with Aran, I would have 2 balls because they're 250-gram balls, but this was 100 grams, so I am pulling 1 strand from the center and 1 strand from the outside, and then stopping after I do 2 rows, I just untwist the yarn. So I started this Sunday, and I made a reasonable amount of progress. Chris doesn't know this is for him yet. I will give it to him when I'm done. And this is the color Shamrock, and it is not my shade of green, but it should work very nicely for Chris. And all 3 of my Aran stroke worsted weight projects have been on 4.0 millimeter needles. And in fact, when I finished my Momo Hat, I just transferred the needles straight to this project because I wanted something. I got them out again. I put them away, but I got them out again to start this one. So I'm really enjoying that cable. That cable is a lot of fun with the 4 different strands knotting together like that. And so far I'm the first person to knit it other than the design sample, which is a shame because it's a really nice pattern. I think a lot of people would have fun knitting it. And that catches me up on my works in progress. I do have 1 acquisition today that came while Catherine and I were out this morning. Oh, there's a little note in the card. I got it from the sock yarn shop. Pip, who runs it, used to live in the UK. They've since moved to France, and they're living off-grid. But I believe maybe her sister is running, like she's maintaining the website portion of it, and her sister actually packs things and posts them because they come really fast. But anyway, this is West Yorkshire Signature 4-ply in their holiday color, which is called Fairy Lights. And this is a self-striping yarn. It is just so cute, the colors in it, which gives you, it came with a pattern so you can see it knit up. And It's just got that kind of Fair Isle look in the pink, the blue, the red, and then the green stripes. I have, you can either use the cayenne pepper, matches the red. I think it's sarsaparilla, matches the pink. Bubblegum matches the blue, and then the green is chocolate mint. I have pretty much all of their solid colors in my stash, so matching them isn't a problem. Excuse me. I'm not sure what color I'll match yet. I could even do one color for the toe, the heel, and the cuff, or I could just keep going and do the whole thing in it. I've been watching, Louise Tilbrook is knitting a pair of socks in this yarn right now, and she keeps posting pictures, update pictures on her Instagram, and it just looks so cute, so pretty. Very excited to do those after I finish Christina's little socks. I didn't show them. I worked on them today when we were at playgroup, but otherwise I hadn't. So I've only got like 2 rows above where I'd shown it a couple weeks ago. So I haven't worked on those much. They will go a lot faster if I do work on them, and it's almost December. It's almost December. So I should finish those for her. Speaking of Christina, she has some little crafts she's been making where all on her own she drew the shape, and then she had me help her cut it out and then do the other side. She colored them both in. She glued them together, went to my craft room and took my wool stuffing. I've got a large bag from Jamieson Smith where they sell giant bags of cleaned fleeces, shorn, clean, mostly brushed. There's a lot of vegetable matter in there, but no big pieces of vegetable matter. Just a big bag of wool. And she went in there and helped herself to some wool, and she's made a little cushion, and she wound up making a bunch of these. She glued the sides together, stuffed it, and then we glued the last side together, and she put hair clips to hold it together with the stuffing inside. So she made the unicorn. There's this cat one. She made a strawberry one. She made a couple of these just cushion shaped ones, and I showed her if you draw the outline of the first one and then put that paper under another piece of paper, you can trace the same outline for the second one. So she made a bunch of those yesterday and another one this morning. She took one that looks like an orange, like if you cut an orange in half. She took one to school today. She just had a lot of fun doing that. This is all her own idea, her own thing. She worked out how to do it. It's very cute and clever, and I'm very happy for her. So that kind of catches up on the knitting side. This is just a store-bought jumper, so nothing to speak about there. And in family news, if you can't tell, I'm mostly over my cold. Touch wood, I've probably jinxed it now. Everyone else, Chris was still feeling a bit poorly this morning. Catherine and Christina have very snotty noses, but other than that, I think they're better. Started at the beginning of the week last week, Monday. Christina did not go to Enjoy a Ball again. She went the day before Halloween, but she hasn't gone anytime the 3 Mondays in November. And so I think she's done with that. She says it's unenjoyable. She's just bored with it. She does still come home and be like, oh, but I want to play with my friends. I'm like, go to Enjoy a Ball. That's like, we know almost everyone in that class. You can play with them, run around, play games. We'll get a bus home so that you're not crying and wanting me to carry you the whole way. But she has not been interested in that. So we tried it. It's not really for her. I'm not sure she's into organized sports. She's never really wanted to do group activities and stuff. So she's not doing that. And then our dryer broke. Chris said it was making a grinding noise, so he stopped it. And so I did another load of laundry, and it wasn't making any kind of weird noise, but the drum wasn't spinning, Like the hot air was blowing, but the drum wasn't spinning. So I was like, yeah, no, it's broken. So I have been doing one small load of wash a day and then draping it over every radiator. My priority over the weekend was getting Christina her school clothes washed. So all of the laundry baskets are completely full. Pretty much everyone except Christina with her school uniforms has enough clothes. Excuse me. Let me just pause. Sorry about that. I guess I did jinx myself. Or more likely, I've just been talking long enough that it finally made a tickle in my throat. We were saying the dryer is broken, so I had to, like the rest of us, we have lots of clothes, but Christina only has so many school uniforms, so I had to wash her school uniforms. I did the lights one day and the darks the other day, and I did a load of nappies, but otherwise I've been putting Catherine in disposables, and I did my pants in with Christina's laundry because that's the only thing. I've got about a week and a half worth of pants, so I need more pants. Not to acquire, just to wash them. And otherwise we'll just possibly be wearing slightly stinky shirts this week as we wait. The person came and looked at it on Thursday and said, "Ah, yes, here's what's broken. I'll have to order a part." So hopefully it'll be in by Thursday this week and he can repair it and I can do a lot of laundry over the weekend to catch up. Libby's coming. Come here. And, oh, she's thinking about it. So that was that. We didn't really do much Tuesday or Wednesday. Christina had one of her friends over. We picked her up after school and we all came home together, and that was fine. But then after the friend left, when I was going through Christina's backpack, I couldn't find her little coin purse. She takes 20p to school to buy a bagel for snack. And I couldn't find her coin purse. And she was like, "Oh yeah, no, I lost it." If you told me you lost it, we could have looked for it. So she didn't have her coin purse. And then Thursday we leave right after, like we have to leave really sharpish so we can get a taxi to go to the swimming pool for her swim lessons at 3:30. She gets out of school at 2:45. And so I didn't have a chance to look for it then. Swim lessons were fine. She did her swim lessons, and then she had been asking if we could go swimming in the big pool or the leisure side of the pool. They're in the lap pool for the lessons. If we could go swimming in the leisure side, the waters, they call it, afterwards. I was like, well, no, because I've got you and Catherine, and you have to have one grown-up for each child. We can't go swimming. But I had asked a friend, Miss E, if she would go swimming with us, so she met us there, and we all went swimming for a bit, even though they kind of both had colds, but I'd finally arranged for it to happen, and I really knew how much they wanted. We only swam for about half an hour, a little over half an hour after Christina's lesson, but it was a mistake because they both, by the time our taxi came and got us and we went home, they were both absolute disasters, and I'd kind of missed my window for feeding them. They didn't eat much dinner that night, and then Catherine had a bit of a fever overnight, and we didn't do her class on Friday. We just stayed home and basically lay in bed together, and she'd nurse for a while, and then she'd lay next to me and watch her pad. She was watching her her like nursery rhyme videos on her pad, and then she'd nurse again for a while, and that was our whole day, which is how I knit a hat in basically one day. And then she was a bit warm off and on Saturday as well, so we didn't wind up doing anything over the weekend. We were all just like bleh, except Christina, who was like, let's go do something, and then she'd be bleh for a while. She was an absolute disaster on Friday, trying to get her to go to school. Like we got her ready and she was out the door, and then she just stood in front of the window and cried. And I was trying to ask Chris what was wrong, and he just came stomping back in the house saying that he guessed we wouldn't go to school that day. And I was like, you can't just not go to school. Like, that's not, either you think she's too poorly to go to school, which is an entirely reasonable thing to say, or you have to just drag her kicking and screaming to school. So I changed my dressing gown for my overcoat, and I took Christina to school in my pajamas, which was a lot of fun for me. But Christina went. She's kind of subdued, but she went, and then she was okay after school on Friday. And I went to the lost properties, and Christina said, oh no, I had them look, and someone went through and they couldn't find anything like it. And I'm like, well, sometimes it helps to know what you're looking for. And I looked through, and sure enough, found it and the packet of hankies she said she'd lost. So I reunited her with her coin purse, which was absolutely delightful. And then Saturday morning, the postie came and brought a parcel for Chris. We opened it up, and he had ordered her a new push-in coin purse, which she was so excited. She was speechless. She was literally speechless. Uh-oh, Catherine has woke up. Let me pause the video there. Sorry about that. Catherine woke up, and she woke up crying. It has been about 90 minutes since she fell asleep, so she was due to wake up. And she is feeling better now. She's just got a bit of a snotty cold, a bit of a snotty nose. Sometimes she'll even come tell me like, oh no, my face is covered in snot. Make it go away. And sometimes I have to run her down and be like, no, snotty noses belong to Mummy. Snotty noses belong to Mummy. I get to wipe them. We did have her play group today, and there were some of the little pottery things we decorate. You paint the dishes and they fire them for you. And she picked a Christmas tree ornament to paint, and then I picked kind of a platter, a heart-shaped platter, and did her handprints on them and wrote her name, and that she was 22 months. And I figured maybe we could give it to Grandmama as a surprise at some point. Or maybe it'll just be so cute that I will keep it forever. That has happened before too. Trying to think if there's anything else. I'm just, sorry, my show notebook is over on the side, so I can see. Oh, the other big thing is Christina has been sleeping in her own bed. We bought her new bedding last weekend, and cat bedding, and she has gone to sleep in her own bed every night. There were a couple, about half the nights for the first part of the week she was coming to join me. And then there's one night she came, I guess it was Wednesday night to Thursday morning, she came to join me, and Catherine woke up when she came in and was nursing, but she kept stopping to sit up and cough, and she was coughing so hard it sounded like she was going to throw up, which is a thing I do and Catherine does as well. And Christina scooted to the far end of the bed and then said, can I go back to my own bed? I said, yes, you can go back to your own bed. So she was only with me about 10 minutes, and then she went back to her own bed and slept through the night, which Chris and I were really excited about because it meant she soothed herself to sleep. Like, she didn't need someone to cuddle her or anything. She went back to her own bed, curled up, and went to sleep. And then there's one night she didn't come to see me until 5:30 in the morning. And then 2 nights she made it through the whole night. She did her whole night in her own bed. And we're so very proud of her, so excited that she's sleeping in her own bed. Finally, she'll be 6 in January, so 2 months shy of being 6 years old. She's finally sleeping in her own bed somewhat consistently. And we said she would get like toy surprises and stuff for every week she can go in her own bed, at least for a while. So the push-in purse was her first one this last week. And fingers crossed it will stick. And eventually this one, when she's sleeping through the night on her own, which she was over the summer. She was over the summer, and then she got all of her molars, and then she started being sick again in the autumn. But she was sleeping through the whole night before she got her molars. And that's kind of it for the week. Plans for next week. Tomorrow I said I'd take Christina into town. Before she goes to Girl Brigades, we could go in early and look for some kind of snow gear for her. It's kind of difficult. I mean, Chris and I go out on a really cold day and you wear thermal leggings under your trousers, or in my case tights and thermals and trousers, wool knee socks. You bundle up with lots of layers, but because her classroom's so warm, you can't have all those layers, and you don't want to be putting on an awful lot of layers. But I figure we could get her a puffy pair of trousers and then her puffy coat, and those will just have to be enough to keep her warm walking to and from school, and maybe on her lunch break and stuff, anytime they put their coats on and go out. And she's going to see today if her welly boots are good, because it was really icy walking to school. So hopefully her welly boots will do for snow boots this year as well. They've got a lining in them. And she does need a new winter coat. Her current winter coat is above her wrist bone. She's very lanky and she has grown. So she will need a new winter coat and hopefully some winter trousers. That's not an all-in-one suit, although an all-in-one suit would mean she has to actually wear the warm trousers when she is playing at recess. So there's that idea as well. And then it is Thanksgiving this Thursday in the US. We kind of just looked up last week and we're like, oh yeah, that's a thing. Because we usually host a Thanksgiving for some friends, and like the friend who sent me her now ex-roommate's yarn when her roommate stopped knitting has since moved back to Chicago. Well, not back to Chicago. She'd never lived in Chicago before. She has moved to Chicago. And then the family that lives up here that we usually have Thanksgiving with, they've got plans for next weekend. So we weren't able to do it then. I was like, well, what about the weekend after? And the dad's not free, but the mom and child are free. So I'm like, well, we'll take what we can get. And then Chris was like, I just told you I had a big work thing that weekend and I can't do it. So rather than not do anything else anything at all, on the 1st of December, we are going to go to a restaurant and have a festive turkey dinner, since the restaurants around here are already doing their Christmas dinners. Oh, did you get your arm stuck? So we can do a festive turkey luncheon with whatever it is our children will eat. And then they can go play afterwards. It's next to one of the soft plays. They can go play for a while afterwards. And then on Sunday the 2nd, we can put up our Christmas tree and keep going with the Christmas decorations. I don't know if you can see up here, I've got fairy lights up in this room. That's what they call the Christmas lights in this country, fairy lights. I've got them here in the conservatory, and I plugged in the ones on the 2 windows in the kitchen. Those are the icicle style ones. And I plugged in the ones over the big picture window at the front of the house in the lounge, because it gets dark. November and December are dark months. It gets really dark in the afternoon. Right now I think the sun's going down around 3:30. Particularly if it's a dreek day, it'll be dark as well, and they just kind of help make things a little brighter. Christina has some LED stars that she has in her room, And yeah, but we'll wait until December 2nd after Thanksgiving. We can put up the overtly Christmas, you know, trees and Santa Clauses and Advent. Well, we'll suppose we'll have to get the Advent calendars up a little before that. But that'll be that. Start doing, I mean, we have to do something for Thanksgiving because I've told Christina we can't do Christmas until after Thanksgiving. So we have to at least somehow honor Thanksgiving. I told my mother that we were having trouble scheduling Thanksgiving with our friends, so we were doing it the first. So, you know, like, don't be saying Happy Thanksgiving to Christina since we're not doing Thanksgiving yet. My mother's like, you've got the wrong day for Thanksgiving. I'm like, no, I know what day Thanksgiving is, but we can't do anything until later. So hopefully my mother will remember. And that's kind of us. Ooh, Libby's coming back. She's come in a couple times, but she's not overly fond of the baby. She did let Christina pet her this morning, which was nice. And I can't even get her tail over here. Come here. Come say hi. Come say hi. Catherine, you lay still. Come say hi, Libby. Let's see if I can get her up here. Up on the cushion? No. Okay. Well, I tried. Libby's not going to come say hello this time. Libby's got a little patch on her neck, which she gets sometimes, usually in October, where she just scratches too much. And I think she's just got a little bit of dermatitis, a seasonal allergy of some sort. So, I don't know. The vet usually gives us some antibiotic, just a little cream to put on it. She hasn't needed it in a while, so we're out now. Like the last two didn't go off for a couple years, so we were able to keep it. So I may have to take her back to the vet. Is that you giggling? Are you giggling? May have to take her back to the vet to get a little cream for her poor little tail. Are you giggling? Do you want to say hi? Do you want to say hello on the podcast? No, she said no. Catherine does have yes and no. Her nose tend to be very sad. Do you want this? No. And then her yes is more, it's yeah, is what she's trying to say. But she says da, which is her yes. So we no longer have to rely exclusively on a foot. A foot! We no longer have to rely exclusively on seeing the head nods and shakes. We can now ask for audio confirmation, which is useful in the middle of the night when you say, are you asking to nurse? Or, oh, it's the other foot. The other foot! The other foot! Now I'm going to have to start kissing both feet. You always have to do both. Okay, I think that's us done. That's us done. I'm going to turn the video off.
Where's number 2? There's number 2. There's number 4.
Yay!